My name is Huntington Thornquist. Over half of my life has been infected with car enthusiasm, and I still haven't found a definitive answer to the question, why do we like cars? Season 1 of Motor Law Company will introduce you to a variety of seasoned automotive enthusiasts and their stories, in search of a common answer to the question, why do you like cars? History suggests it's a manufactured affinity instilled by the likes of Ford and General Motors. That may be true. It may be something deeper. A last word before we proceed. Patreon. Welcome to Motor Law Company, Season 1, Episode 1. I'm on the far south side of Houston, Texas at Apex Auto Works, and I'm here to introduce you to Richard Tomlin, a man known by everybody who's anybody in the car culture of Houston, Texas. Owner and chief technician at Apex Auto Works in Alvin, Texas. International race car driver, crew chief, technician, technical inspector for multiple sanctioning bodies, former SCCA regional executive, and assistant director for the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. You've been in the proper business of cars since 1999, and your business, Apex Automotive, is only growing, so clearly you're not burnt out. Why do you like cars?
Why do you like cars? Basis of everything that we do and how we exist. It is more the thrill, but in recent years it's become the emotion that ties people to the cars. People that get tied into the cars that they've had for 15, 20 years. And you go back and you restore that, bring it back to modern excellence, let's call it that. The race side of it is basically funded by the older cars. And what we find is everybody who races a car has that one special car that got away. We've had the opportunity of rebuilding some of those, and that's the part that makes this really cool.
It's like you're bringing old family members back to life.
Yep.
That's really cool.
It's neat. It's different, and you wouldn't think that it's that special until you do it. It's when you make a grown man break down and cry, you've done something.
Cheers to the guys at the shop door.
Yep.
So
very cool.
Richard, you somehow ended up on my Facebook friends list before we actually met at the BMW teen driving event back in 2018. How did you end up as a driving instructor for a BMW sanctioned driving safety event?
I don't know. That's the best part of that. So it happens often, and this is through a lot of what I'll say MSR Houston. I've instructed down there from their teen school to their Department of Public Safety class where we teach state troopers how to do high-speed pursuit, which happens the first Monday of every month down there. So a lot of instructing in MSR, a lot of laps in MSR. And when a group comes to town like BMW Club, they hired, I can't remember the guy's name, from Florida to come to town and put on the event. Well, what they usually do is they pick up the phone and they call the closest racetracks, hey, who do you guys have as instructors? Well, when they mentioned BMW, at MSR at the time, I was the BMW guy next to James Rogerson, and James probably had something he was doing that weekend. So my name was chosen. And thereby we meet face to face, and you come out with a super clean BMW, and everything works from there.
That's life, huh? That's
just how, I mean, that goes back to the thing of never say no.
Yeah.
Say yes to everything. Did I enjoy spending the 4 days out there in the sun baking, setting up, racing, tearing down? Yeah, we got time in cars, but it was more herding cats than anything. But it creates opportunities later, because here we are 2022. Now you're doing videos, you're doing web content, you're doing YouTube channel, and it was just a chance meeting. So say yes.
It was. They could have picked somebody else, but I'm glad that I went. And so a while back, you actually told me that you started all of this with an interest in rallying. Did you ever think that you'd be given control of the world's most famous hill climb?
No, I mean, it's to even stand on Pikes Peak is amazing, but to have an opportunity to touch cars that you literally only dreamed about or you had as a Hot Wheels as a kid, no way.
Yeah. How do you feel about electric cars?
Man, electric is a tough conversation to have. The electric cars are absolutely amazing. And I say that watching what they've done at Pikes Peak. I will say Formula E to me is absolutely boring and insane, and they're trying to make something out of it. But EV will have a place in our world. Where will it fall in motorsports? I don't know. You kind of look at the vintage motorsports, SVRA, C-Bar, they're all, as we say, stuck in 72. That's where the stamp was laid for vintage years back. Well, now our 99 Miatas are vintage, right? So are we going to open up to them, or does it become the new vintage is internal combustion? And that's, I won't say fear, but that's kind of the only way I see to divide it right now. Because if you start combining records between internal combustion and electric, you're going to screw the whole game up. Pikes Peak is looking at increasing the number of electrical records possible. Right now it's just production car, production SUV. But they're looking at changing that to some modified classes and opening up some records for people to actually go attempt. We're keeping it completely separate at Pikes Peak. How will everybody else do that? We don't know yet. There's not enough support, there's not enough safety recovery due to the fire risk of the cars that we're seeing them in wheel-to-wheel. We are seeing them in DEs, we are seeing them in time trials. I would like to see them get to wheel-to-wheel. The issue there is you get into the amount of weight that those cars are throwing around. It's like racing an old Mustang or Camaro. I mean, you're hauling around 4,000 pounds, 4,500 pounds of weight. That changes your safety ratings. That changes what, in my mind, what helmet you should be wearing. It changes the way the cage should be built because all your weight is in the bottom of the car. It creates a pendulum effect when you crash. And then you've got the additional risk of fire. Now, luckily, the fires come on a little slower, but once it's on fire, it's going to burn for days. And tracks, sanctioning bodies all have to adjust to this new technology. It'll happen. It's just how fast or how slow will that happen. So I love them. We'd like to do more. We've worked some with Unplugged Performance out in Arizona. We've had some talks and discussions about some stuff. We've had some emails back and forth to Nissan that Apex may be working on something electrical for the 24 Hours of Lemons. Lemons now has a prize out, for those of you who don't know, $50,000 for the first electric car to win overall, which is a really tough act to follow and compete in, let alone finish first. But we've got a team of some very talented people that we're bringing together. Between the four of us, I think there's 25 trophies from Lemons. So we've got the Lemons things pretty well figured out. It'd be good to have the four of us on one team and then building a super light car that has the efficiency to win that race.
So you're saying it's more than just the different fuel?
Oh yeah, there's so much. The tires are probably the only common factor.
That's a fun way to put it.
I mean, everything else is different. Everything else is different.
Absolutely.
It all changes, and if you are looking at it from the outside, you could say, yeah, it's the same, but start putting a engineering hat on and look at how different things work. I mean, even a braking system is so far advanced to what we currently use. You can't compare anything that's been done in the past with internal combustion with electric. You just can't. It'll be amazing, but it's going to take time for rule sets to figure out where they're going to place them, how they're going to place them, and then the safety side to catch up after that.
So, Richard, a lot of people watching this right now, a lot of them are going to be between the age of 18 and 34 years old.
Whippersnappers.
Yeah, young people, such as myself, between up to 34. And a few of these people, for sure, watching right now, are going to try to open their own shops, and they're going to try to make a living out of race cars. And as you know, most mechanic shops fail. So what advice would you give the aspiring technician in terms of shifting away from it being a hobby and into being a business?
It kicked my ass for years. Still kicking my ass technically. The biggest problem you will have is your friends. And that sounds horrible because you think your friends would be the biggest connection, the biggest market. If you could not do work for any of your friends for the first 5 years, that would be the best thing I could tell you. The thing is, we rely on our friends because that's an immediate network. That immediate network comes in, but then you've got the 50, 60% of them that are always looking for a deal. And they're friends, so whether they ask for a deal or you give them a deal because they're your friend, that's what happens. And that, in my mind, is what buried me for years. And I'll say up until the last 3 years, and even today. I can give you examples in the last month where I've given people discounts just because they've been here for 20, 25 years. I've worked with them, I've raced with them. You give them a little extra credit, so to speak. But in the nature of the business, it actually kills the business. In the respect to race cars, unless you're a tuner, I mean, even Apex is not a full race car facility. We still restore cars. We still work on crash cars. We do build race cars. We do build turnkey. We do take them to Mexico. We take them to Pikes Peak. That's what we do. That's what we enjoy. That's what drives the shop. You do have your restorations of a 91 Toyota SR5 with 650,000 miles on it because the guy loves it. You do have the restoration we did on the 52 Ford F250 with a 6-cylinder with Haltech on it. We do that. We've got a 68 round BMW 2002 we're getting ready to do. It's all these cars came from someone who races that we've met who races. And then they find out you do this additionally, and that's what provides you the work to put food on the table. So the discounts and friends, and it sounds horrible, but fire your friends before you open the business. It will bury you. You think you have a network of people. It's like people talk about writing a book, because I'm working on a book as well. Print out 100 copies and go try and sell 100 copies to your friends and see who buys the book. That's when you'll find out who your friends are. They won't buy a book from you. Just they know you. They won't do it the same. They won't come in there and pay you $100 an hour to work on their car because they know you. Yep. They expect you to help them in the driveway and not charge a penny. It's different when you're running a business, and set a price structure, stick to it. You're going to piss some people off. You're going to lose some friends over it. You just got to do it. And then the other thing I'll say is stand behind what you do. I've seen a couple shops get buried from doing some work. Something goes wrong. Whether it was a shop's fault or the owner's fault, doesn't matter at that point, because this thing called the internet, they're going to point the finger back at you no matter what. It's an ugly world out there. There's a lot of keyboard warriors. Keep your circle small. You want to be networked out there. You want to know everybody. You want to see everybody. But it's an ugly world. It truly is. And you won't see it until you actually have a shop and you've got competing shops, or you have an employee that leaves and opens a shop 3 miles away.
That's
so
frustrating.
That's frustrating. And when you drive by and there's no cars in their driveway, there's no work going on. There may be a side of you that kind of smiles a little bit, but it took us years to get to the point we are now, where we actually have work that's waiting on us instead of us going out there, where's the work, where's the work? We've never been short on work, but there's that always nervousness of what's going to happen next. Everybody talks about advertising. We never had to do that here. I always had a day job, so this was a side hustle for quite a few years. And then when it became full-time, I guess 13, 14 years ago now, 15 maybe, everything changed, and the pricing structure had to change. And when people show up, when they leave, all change, because your days are longer than you could ever think. You go to events like we do in Mexico or Pikes Peak. I mean, we're up overnight at Pikes Peak changing a throw-up bearing on my car in 2016. This problem with this car is everything has to come apart to get to the throw-up bearing. Blow the whole car apart, put it all together overnight to be back on the mountain at 2:30 in the morning to roll up and stop. But what do you want to do? And then what are you going to do to get that? You're going to do more than you think.
Do you have a title for that book? Is that already set?
50 Things Your Father Should Have Taught You About Cars.
That's nice. And do you know when it's going to come out?
I'm like another $8,000 and I'll be there. Keep working. Just keep working. That's all you can do.
And last question for you before we close this one up. Do you have any plans for your 25-year anniversary with the company?
Not yet. We've got new logos coming out. The biggest thing is probably Apex Mexico. We hope to have it done this year. That did not happen. We're thinking by April of 2023 we'll have a shop open in Mexico. So then we'll actually be, I guess, an international shop at that point. But the growth we're seeing in Mexico is amazing. We're also looking at a road rally that we'll be putting on in Nicaragua. So there's some things that are in the works that are going to be amazing. We'll have a race series that starts this year. I've stepped down from SCCA regional executive. So now I'm working with Satterfield Group, and we will have a vintage style event going on. It'll be two-day festivals. We're going to have one at No Problem Raceway, and the other one will be at Beeville, Texas this year. So just follow up on those, and I'm sure there'll be something that happens here for a 25-year.
I hope so. I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Something will happen. Maybe we'll have that figure 8 dirt track lawnmower race in the back we've always been talking about.